Welcome to the Room of Lives. I'm your host, Neil. I'm currently at a beach hotel in Florida for an annual Vision Science conference that I've come to several times in the past. In fact, I recorded episodes 50.1 through 50.4 with a neuroscientist here last year. So I called this Uber today, and the name of the driver is Othniel, which was kind of uncommon, and similar to my own uncommon name, Othniel. I get in, and he says that he's from the Bahamas, but then I learned that he was only born there of Haitian parents while they were on vacation, but came to the US at 2 years old. I said that in most such cases, a person would just say that they're American. In response, he said that although he has been in the US, he grew up more in the Haitian culture, and they have a different way of life and of raising kids. I asked how it was different, and he said that, for example, in Haiti, you're either a believer in God or you're against God and a Satanist and into witchcraft and voodoo. There's no neutral atheism. This all already sounded so cool that I hit the record button on my phone, and that's where this recorded conversation starts. We talk about religion, Satanism, and witchcraft in Haiti. I ask Othniel if he has any spiritual gifts and whether he believes that there is meaning and purpose to life. It then turns out that he's a pastor, and we talk a little bit about science and its dogmas and the coincidences that brought him and me to have this conversation. We were in a car going down the street in a noisy environment, and I used Adobe's AI to remove noise and reconstruct our voices, but it's a bit garbled since the amount of ambient noise was high. I bet, though, that in the coming days this technology will keep getting better, and I might be able to go back and improve some of my previous podcasts that were recorded in noisy surroundings.
Okay, so you're saying that some of these kind of miraculous things that are written in the Bible, you actually do see those things in Haiti, so it's more intense, so there's not so many people who are oh yeah, I don't really believe in anything kind of atheism. You're either yes, I believe in God, or I'm anti-God. Yes. And so who are these? So I have so many questions. Okay, first question is, what are these miracles that happen in Haiti, and why do you think they happen more there but not here?
Oh, okay. So that was a very good question, right? And so I think that, for instance, the Bible talks about how they can have a form of godliness but reject the power. Yeah. Money can do a lot of things that a relationship with God can, So here in the United States, because money can do a lot of those things, people rely less on looking for those kind of stuff with God. Like healing, if you have enough money, go to the hospital, they'll give you prescriptions. It will give you the effects of a healing without the actual healing. Give you, if you're having problems with your blood sugar, you're not actually praying for a healing of your blood sugar. You're just going to go ahead and take on medications that will help alleviate your symptoms. And so a lot of that kind of dulls the effect of it here. So if people just wouldn't pray long enough for what it fast or try to get into a place where it help.
Because the material strength is more in the United States. There are all these material ways and technology ways in which so these anti-God people in Haiti, what do they actually believe in, and why why are they anti-God? What is their deal?
Yeah, it's not even it's anti-God in the fact that they're Satanists.
Okay.
The clearest cut is just clear-cut Satanists. I know here in the United States, the closest thing where I can say that there's a dichotomy like that is going to be Republican, Democrat.
Yeah.
It's by being a Democrat, you are in effect, in essence,
Yeah.
if you're a Republican, you are in an effect anti-Democrat.
Yeah.
Which I don't fall into any of those categories.
I see.
A lot of foolishness that they both do. But yeah, so in Haiti, like you will see people use Voodoo, which is one of their big things, where they can attribute, they can basically put you in possession or put curses on you.
Yeah.
There's even been cases and stories of people being transformed from humans to animals.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Or being in a vegetative state because of the stuff that they've been able to do. So like when you see like some movies that try to touch on those aspects where they have a doll, and they'll
Yeah.
and so that comes from like Haitian witchcraft and real African witchcraft, but Haiti being so good with that as well. That really got the area that we affected the most with our witchcraft teachings is kind of Louisiana. They talk about Louisiana witchcraft.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my great-grandfather, not my great-grandfather, my grandfather was the first one to convert in our family from witchcraft to Christianity.
Oh.
Yeah. So like where the miracles that we talk about here in the United States of like actually having a person dead and bringing them back to life.
Yeah.
Not through medication, not bringing them out of a coma, actual death, and bringing them back. Like that stuff that we've seen in our family. We see.
You've seen that kind of stuff in your family?
Absolutely.
Whoa, like they died and then they came back.
Brought back to life. Yep.
Whoa, so you have seen that?
Yes, in our family. Yep.
Well, can you tell me about?
So there was one of our aunts who was sick. Like she was deathly sick, and sure enough, she died. And so I believe I was like maybe 6 years old when this happened.
Yeah.
So it was like one traumatizing kind of like, okay, well, what's wrong with her? Well, you could see like her body was stiff, her body was cold.
Yeah.
And everybody in our family was just waiting for my grandfather to arrive because he was in a whole other town. And so I'm like, okay, so what are we gonna do? Like we're not just gonna go ahead and call 911, and like, cause I'm thinking, if they have any issues, like just call 911 and stuff. So no, like everybody's like, no, we're just waiting for grandfather here, and I'm like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like how is it gonna help the situation? And this is the same grandfather who broke away for whole witchcraft.
Yeah.
Then sure enough, it was like maybe like 12 hours later that he finally arrived there.
Yeah.
And he basically like told like everybody to get out. Like all the kids that needed to get out, we're sitting going to pray. And so I got kicked out of the room. As soon as he kicked out of the room, they just started praying in the room. And then sure enough, it's maybe like hour or 2 hours of that like praying in the room. Hearing like some people were like crying and they didn't believe it happened and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she walks out.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh my God! What did she say her experience was? Did she say she came back from the dead? Or?
That's a good question. She did say that it went dark.
Okay.
Like it wasn't like how what people talk about the afterlife experience where they either was transported into heaven or hell.
Yeah.
She didn't have one of those. She just said it was dark. But most of the faiths is that same thing, right? Like, well, most of the religions have that aspect where it's like trying to get us to understand like everything that you see is not all there is to be seen.
Yeah.
I remember there was this one what just said we went to Haiti and he was doing his illusion is his tricks, right?
Man.
In Haiti, and he thought he had all these kids like amazed and stuff like that. He's like, but they weren't shocked at any of it. They were like, oh, okay. And he was like, wow, have you guys seen anything like that with Mark? And like, nobody had this to kids. And if you had it, so they're like, oh my God. Everybody like, well, it's like, and then one of the kids sees the sign, oh, they had, he's like, well, that's nice, but I've seen a demon fly. Oh my God. Yeah. I was like, you're playing at magic, but I see those too. That, you know, like, you're tricking people into believing that it's stuff that's real, that I've seen them actually. Fast forward, I see found a man to leave his feet and be in the air and take off. Like, wow, yeah.
You have actually seen that?
No. That's what kids.
Okay, the kid said that.
I said that though.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So, my understanding is that in these like paths of like what you might call like dark magic or black magic or voodoo or Satanism, you do gain some powers, but you are like, you're kind of going against God, so therefore you're going to have to suffer. Like it's what do the Satanists believe? That do they believe that no, it's actually good and they're gonna like get away with it, or like,
you know, and that's cool that you say that, because they're okay with that transaction, because it's like, and yeah, there may be punishment in the future, but I'm living it kind of like when you go to eat a donut, or if you're like other, you know, like, yeah, I think it's really based on our impulses, and we're really good at living in our emotional highs or our physical experiences in this moment.
Yeah.
And because like even I work in finances is my actual main job.
Yeah.
And to talk to people my age about retirement.
Yeah.
Like, real, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Put money away for retirement and help people get coverage for if they die or when they die. People were like, Anthony, you know, I don't know when I'll die. I'll probably live to be 127. Like, there is a consequence. They know that it'll probably come, but they don't know if it'll be now or no whole another life.
Yeah. So what are your beliefs in the middle of all this?
And in terms of like the reality of God and the,
yeah, like, do you subscribe to like the any of the witchcraft traditions or Satanism or Christianity or something different?
I'm on the Christianity, but I'm on the Christianity that's not so strict to denominations.
Yeah,
because that's one of the things I think also diluted here in the United States is that, and again, it starts to become more like Republican Christians, Democratic Christians than actual, like, just following what the Bible says Christian.
Yeah.
So everybody's got, like, they call them denominations. Something's like, they have the Methodists, they have the Lutheran, the Pentecostal, the Baptist. It's like so many of these different denominations. They choose an aspect of the faith to kind of amplify, and while at the same time neglecting the other portions of the faith. And so because you have such a strict focus on one portion of the faith, you tend to often have a subjective and belief on things. So like if you believe you're a Baptist, you will emphasize baptism in the faith.
Yes.
And then you say, well, baptism is the only way that you could be saved, even though the Bible shows you references of people that were saved without it. It's like, no. And those happened at that one time. For everybody else past this point, it got to happen. Or for some people that are into like the Pentecostal portion, they'll emphasize on spiritual gifts like speaking in tongues and healings and moves of the Spirit. But they'll kind of miss out on the practical things of the faith, like actually helping your neighbor.
Do you feel like you have any like paranormal or spiritual or energetic powers or gifts?
I wouldn't, because it's supposed to be like a normal thing for believers. So I don't know if I would quantify it as paranormal. Like it, because and I would think it's like normal things. Like for instance, there's I think like the Lord has allowed me to be able to witness or to partake in helping a person be free of demon possession.
Okay.
Yeah, so like that was a real experience for me that I actually was able to help in that process.
Yeah.
I don't like to take on that ideal that, oh, I'm the one who did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm noticing from the way that you're talking about it. It's like the Lord has like helped you to be a part of that.
So I got to experience it. The person was like, thank you. Whereas like, I don't know what, I didn't really know like that I did anything, you know. I was praying. Yeah, it didn't help.
Yeah. But you went in there with a certain intention behind your prayer. And like that was enough.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's been other times where I prayed for somebody to be healed, and that same person died.
So the witchcraft that is practiced in Haiti, that's something that existed from before Christianity, right? Or it was its own thing, or is it part of Christianity there?
Well, yeah, it was definitely, because what the witchcraft is, well, way back, like that's going into like early Abrahamic, early like first people situations, you know, like when Christians talk about like demons, we're not talking about like just inherently bad individuals. We're talking about angels who have chosen that.
Yeah.
And then so the demons are still evil, so they're still these angelic, powerful beings
And it,
that now use their powers and effects to inflict harm or to dissuade men from doing what is right, as opposed to being an assistant in terms of like what people say, like guardian angels, archangels of protection and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna ask you another deep question. Do you believe that there is a meaning or purpose in life?
See, and I love that question, because I think on the grand scale, no. That's on the grand scale, no, because we're all kind of in a playwright, or a movie. It's like
a made up,
like
made up game.
Yeah, like we're all pieces to a puzzle, and individually speaking, that puzzle has no value. Puzzle piece has no value. So you would say, yes, there's no meaning to your life. It's kind of there's a whole book on it in the Bible called Ecclesiastes. And it's from Solomon, who is supposed to be the wisest man in the book. He's like, everything's meaningless. He says, whether you're rich is meaningless, whether you're poor is meaningless, whether you love your wife, whether you hate your wife, you know, like all this stuff is meaningless. He says, he took this journey where he was like, okay, well, I'm going to work as hard as I can. And he's like, man, at the end of it, I saw it was worthless. You know, like, you could be the person who's striving to be LeBron James or Michael Jordan, and at the end of the day, you're gone, you know? You can also do the other side of it, where you just focus on complete pleasures, be the Hugh Hefners or the just some porn stars, sexual revolutionists, you know, like, and it doesn't really change anything. It's like, all those things are meaningless because, again, you are just a puzzle piece. Kind of ideal. Like one of those little sands at the beach, you know, like one of those grains of sand at the beach. Like in the grand scheme of it, you don't matter. But in the personal sense of it, going into the story of like what God wanted to do, matter in that sense, like that the stuff that you do can be instrumental in the story of how it's told. I believe it's both. Like, our lives in and of themselves do not matter,
So that kind of means that if you're just like a little piece of the big puzzle, a lot of the time the meaning or purpose cannot be clear to us from our point of view.
Yeah.
But from like a big point of view.
Yeah, because again, the picture is not complete if you're not in it,
Yeah.
So if you don't put that puzzle piece in, you'll finish all the rest of it, but like you'll always have that missing piece to it. And I think that's what we mean, like you do matter in terms of the full picture, but individually you don't have as much of a picture.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people, I don't know if most people, but a lot of people would not believe in something like Haitian voodoo or witchcraft or something like that. They would just say, that's just not true. That just doesn't happen. And what surprises me is that there is this world where there are so many people who are so like, oh yeah, that's just not true. Like, for example, I'm going to a scientific conference now. Most people there would just think, oh, that kind of stuff is hogwash. But then there are all these people who say they have really actually
Anecdotals.
experience these things. So it's just kind of surprising to me that both of these people exist, both of these, like, in the same world.
And it's cool too, because I do love the scientific perspective, because I think it's what's helped to deepen the relationship that I have with just my faith in biblically, because the scientific method is about asking questions, right? Testing a theory and then testing it again and then testing it again.
Yeah.
Just to see, like, how many times will this be duplicated? Is this something that was a coincidence? Is there any other factors that could have led to this same conclusion? Is it multiple factors?
Yeah.
And so it does bring this whole idea together. But I also understand how there's ideas in science that are debilitating, right?
Yeah.
Same thing as history, right? Because in science you have there's faith that you have to have that science is science, right?
Man.
Like, unless you're going to go back and recreate every study and every test and everything that they've done. So the information that you receive, now you're not really dealing with on a scientific method. You're kind of going off the belief.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't go back and recreate Darwinism, you having an amoeba grow into a human, one, you don't have the time frame to recreate it. So we just have to believe that was the process. That's why it's still a theory. That's why it's not the law of evolution. Because what we do see a lot that has been recreated is adaptation in animals.
Yeah.
But not so much evolution, like where it becomes from one species to another over time. It remains the same species with an adaptation.
Yeah, you were really good at like these conversations and explaining things. Like, have you done anything like this, like, professionally?
I'm a pastor, so.
Okay, but even that doesn't completely explain it, because just being a pastor doesn't mean that you're going to be this good at. Oh, wow.
But again, I feel like, because one of the things I really think benefits is that I'm not, as a foreigner, a foreigner believer here in the U.S., I don't feel like I'm tied to a lot of the things that native believers here feel like you have to have in order for you to be in the faith. Right?
Yeah.
So when I kind of look at scripture, like, I don't feel like I completely fit into the American society. So I don't lean Republican, I don't lean Democratic. I say, okay, well, what benefits do they present? What advantages do they present? Like, for liberal Christians, are they living according to biblical standard. For conservative Christians, are they living to biblical standards? It's like, they both can have it, So, and both can miss it at the same time. So they both can have it and miss it at the same time, because in your conservatism, do you kind of cast chains on people?
Yeah.
And don't allow them to be free, which our faith is a freedom faith. Yeah. But in your liberalism, are you using your freedom in a way that hurts other people?
Mm-hmm.
Or that is counterproductive, Yeah. So in both of those, it's like, okay, no, we're free in the faith, and we can be modest in our faith. Like, there is rules, there is protections, but both of them have their value.
Yeah. Would you ever like to be on a podcast?
I would love to.
Okay. Here's my offer. I actually have a podcast, and it's on science and spirituality.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't tell you this because I didn't want to break the flow of the conversation, but I recorded our conversation because it was so good. Like, do you mind if I put it on my podcast?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Nice. I'll give you my number.
Yeah.
And I will send you the podcast. I'm also a very curious person, and I've been doing this podcast for years. Like, I have interviewed, I don't know, like 70 people so far, maybe, on different topics. And before that, I used to organize like free talks at the university. Like, anyone could come and give a talk on any subject, and other people could come and listen. And I was mostly kind of the organizer. I would book the room, and I would get people to give talks. So over time, that really kind of gave me like little windows into different fields, and also made me better at interacting with people. And then particularly the podcast, over time, I think I learned better and better how to have better conversation. And it's actually not very tricky. I was just at the FedEx, and inside the FedEx, there was a book where it just had all these rules for how to make good conversation. But it's not really that complicated. Like, it feels intuitive. I mean, when I'm listening to a person, there are certain things that are hooking my interest. And when I ask the follow-up questions, I just go honestly in the direction of whatever is hooking my interest. And that just makes for better conversation.
Normally, I would probably be on the opposite side of this, right?
Yeah.
Where my inquisitive nature, right, would have me ask questions. Because I think there is a level that you can learn once you kind of take away the judgment portion.
Yeah.
Like, there's a deeper portion that you could learn once you kind of just leave it as a blank slate. Bible does talk about having 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you listen twice as much as you speak.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to learn. That's where you're going to hear. That's where you're going to see, like, wow, okay, so even though this person has never heard the name per se of Jesus, right? Or never seen any of these scriptures, or never gotten any of these things, they still have all these biblical morality that they just operate with, and they, these convictions that they have that no one had to like place on them. Like cool thing is, like, the Bible says, like, that's how you know, like, the law or the word is written on their heart.
Yeah, I also learned that over time, one of the foundations of good conversation is like this very open and non-judgmental listening. Like, when you're talking about this, there are some things that I don't necessarily believe in, and I think in the past I would have been like quicker to be like, no, blah blah blah, etc. Here is my view, and this is why that's true, and everything else is false. But like you were saying, like, over time, I've like tried to just become more open to whatever the other person is saying and less non-judgmental. And I noticed that also leads to such richer conversations. Because if you were talking and you're getting the feeling, even silently, that the other person is kind of like critiquing, then you just kind of close up again, even if the other person is not verbally said anything.
No, that feeling is a real feeling. Like, you feel that there's a genuine questioning, because I've been on the side of it where people would ask me questions about the faith, and it was almost like, especially in a group setting, where they would ask you the question, and then it was almost to get a aha, see, I was like, aha, you don't know what you're talking about. And I could say that I've had good situations where I've thrived in those situations, and I've had bad situations where I was like, yo, you got me. What does that mean? You know, like, or that's a question that I've never pondered. And then I'd go back and I reflect and I'll say, okay, well, is there merit for it? Is there things like in the faith that are like, oh man, that's rough. Like, how do I internalize it or quantify it? Yeah. But there were times where it's like, oh, it was that aha moment. Even if we're to tell that person the perfect answer,
Yeah.
you know, if they're closed off to it, even if you would give them the birth evidence, you know, like go back to the time of Mary, and you can show them, be like, you get to actually witness every step that Jesus was born from a virgin birth, and you're like, yeah, see, that person, because of their disposition or because of their belief, will never believe it. You know what I mean? It's crazy because there was a story similar to that Jesus tells in the Bible as well, where it was this rich man and this guy Lazarus, who was a beggar at his door. So both men died, and Lazarus, this beggar who was at his door, ends up in heaven, or they call it Abraham's bosom, and the rich man ends up in this tormenting place that some people will call hell, right? So he ends up in this tormenting place, and the guy who's in hell, he's like, hey, let me just go back and tell my brothers and sisters so they don't have to end up in this place.
Yeah.
And Abraham's response to him was like, hey, like, they have the scriptures and the prophets. Like, that should be enough. And then it's like, no, but if I actually come back from the dead, they will actually believe, because, like, it's like, look, my brother, it's my person who I trust. And it's like, well, if they have the scriptures and the prophets and they don't believe, even if someone would raise from the dead, that would have changed their opinion. And Christians, theologians will think that's a reference to Christ himself, because Christ is the one that's telling the story. He's like, I'm going to come back from the dead and people still won't believe, you know? So if you come back, even with all the scriptures and stuff like that, a person who is already preset in their mind that they're going to be closed to this position, they're not going to change their opinion based on any evidence that you give.
If I go to the scientific conference and I tell some of the people about some of the sort of like weird things that I believe or I have experienced in my life, yeah, they're not going to like it. They're not, a lot of them are not going to be like, not even going to be like, okay, that might or might not be true. I can accept that might have been true for you. That hasn't happened in my life yet. So at the moment, that's just a story, but okay, I accept that happened to you. No, it's not even going to be that. It's going to be like, wow, you're like crazy. You're delusional. Yeah. So, over time, I've also realized the kinds of dogma that exists within the scientific culture also. But if you truly, really do science, if you like go to the core of what science is, science doesn't really tell you to have these dogmas without evidence. It just asks you to have an open mind. It says, if you haven't looked at it yourself, then you don't know. You know? And there is a certain way of looking at it.
Science kind of operates from the same ideal. Like, we have is evidence. All we have is stories and tests and like theories. It's like, okay, because at one point everybody thought the world was flat.
Yeah.
And it has a resurgence right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's so weird that he said that, because I went to a FedEx just earlier today. Oh, just as I said that FedEx, there's a FedEx truck in front of us. Okay, but I was talking about a coincidence. So I was inside that FedEx and I was waiting, and I was reading an article from a blog that I follow. And in the article, the author was saying, don't always just keep holding on to your own beliefs. There is always going to be some camp that's opposite in belief to yours.
Yep.
Try reading some of their stuff. Try seeing how it feels inside. Maybe some of it will stick. Maybe most of it will not stick. Maybe one little thing will stick, etc. But the author was saying it as like a practice to just be a little bit more open and actually read or listen to what the other side is saying. And one of the examples, because he was saying that at different times in human history, different ideas have been popular. Yes. And one of the examples that he gave was like the flat earth thing. So it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that. In fact, throughout this conversation, I was remembering that article because we were kind of talking about the clash of like different beliefs and whatnot. I was thinking, wow, that's kind of coincidental. Just like a couple hours ago, I was reading this article, and now you mentioned the exact same flat earth thing that was in the article. And the moment I tried to tell you about that, we see the FedEx truck. By the way, the other kind of weird thing is, so I tried to print my poster that I had to print at the FedEx last night in my university building, but I ran out of paper. It was kind of unfortunate. I half printed the poster. And so I was trying to make sense of, today I was like, maybe something interesting, or we don't know why I ran out. Maybe some other life will take some other path and it will make sense. It's like, oh, wow. That's kind of cool that it didn't work last time, because if it did, then this other thing wouldn't happen. And now here we are. We are having this conversation, and it's a really cool conversation. And I'm thinking, wow, if I had printed the poster, I would not have gone to the FedEx, and I would not be next to the FedEx eating Thai food, and I would not have needed to get that Uber from there, you know.
And that is like that is the I think is like the overarching theme of like the Bible, like, because there's a proverb that says like, on the fool says in his heart that there is no God, or that there isn't some sort of force that's moving these things around. Because
also both our names are similar. What is that? You're not Othniel. My name is Othniel.
You have like Abraham, all with that name. Like it's crazy. Like just for you to just believe that everything is just happening and it's just all coincidence.
Yeah,
like that's even scarier to me than having it mean something, you know? Like, again, in the grand scheme or in the micro version, it probably doesn't matter. This conversation, if you didn't have you have a podcast.
Yeah, I do have a podcast, and it's on science and spirituality.
Like, it just, again, it's like so coordinated. It's almost like we got the script and we're just typing it out.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining Othniel and myself in the Room of Lives today. Take care. Until next time.